Welcome, fellow adventurers. Grab your favorite snacks, settle in, and get ready for a wild journey across the stars. If you're looking for a tale filled with romance, humor, and adventure on a distant alien world, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Zinthar 5, the planet where our story unfolds, is a world unlike any other. The twin suns, glowing like molten fireballs in the sky, cast an otherworldly light over the vast landscape. The air smells faintly of iron, mixed with something sweet, almost like fresh fruit but with a sharp electric tang of ozone. The planet's landscape is a strange mix of arid deserts and dense jungle-like forests. Towering trees with electric blue leaves sway gently in the breeze, and bizarre floating rock formations drift across the horizon, their shimmering edges reflecting the light in surreal ways. Massive cities stretch beneath enormous glass domes, their rooftops covered with thick vines that grow so quickly they seem to have a life of their own. Inside the domes, the buildings rise in flowing curves and sharp angles, blending futuristic technology with the organic beauty of nature. It's a world where both nature and technology have found a way to coexist in perfect harmony. A place where every sight, sound, and smell feels alive and vibrant in a way that's utterly alien. Now let's meet Marcus, our protagonist. He's an unassuming human, freshly arrived from Earth, and standing in awe of the strange world that surrounds him. Tall and athletic, with dark, messy hair, Marcus is the kind of guy who blends into a crowd on his home planet. But here, on Zinthar 5, he's a complete stranger. While the excitement of being on an alien planet should be overwhelming, there's a palpable edge of nervousness in his eyes. This isn't just another world, it's a place full of mysteries, including a strange curse that has sealed the voices of the planet's leaders. Marcus's mission is simple: help break the curse and show the people of Zinthar 5 that they can still have a voice. But as he will soon learn, this mission is about more than just magic or curses. It's about a connection he didn't expect with someone he never saw coming. As Marcus wandered through the bustling marketplace, the vibrant alien world around him seemed even more alive up close. Everywhere he looked, there were strange and wonderful sights. Alien creatures of all shapes and sizes, selling odd goods and carrying on their own conversations in a language that Marcus couldn't quite understand. His eyes were scanning the crowd when something caught his attention. There she was, an alien woman draped in flowing robes of pale blue and silver, her long silver hair braided intricately down her back. Her translucent skin glowed softly under the twin suns. She moved through the crowd with an effortless grace, like she was in perfect harmony with the world around her. But it wasn't just her appearance that captivated Marcus. It was the presence. She exuded a powerful aura that drew him in. She wasn't just another alien in the crowd, she was something else entirely. There was mystery in her eyes, something he couldn't quite place. Before Marcus could get any closer to her, a strange sound filled the air. It started as a low hum, but within moments it escalated into a deep, booming rumble that shook the ground beneath his feet. The very air seemed to tremble, and Marcus froze in place, his gaze darting around. Something massive was approaching, and it was making the entire ground quake with each passing second. "Marcus," said a soft voice beside him, snapping him out of his daze. He turned to find Zhara, the alien woman who had been guiding him so far. She wore a playful, almost amused expression, but there was a glimmer of something else behind her smile, something deeper, like she knew more than she was letting on. "Well, Marcus," she said, her voice carrying that melodic quality that made her sound otherworldly, "it seems you're about to meet someone who will change your life." Marcus furrowed his brow, still reeling from the strangeness of the situation. "Who? What's going on?" Before Zhara could answer, the rumbling sound returned, this time much louder. Marcus looked up and his heart skipped a beat as a massive shadow appeared in the sky above them. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, a creature or something else that blotted out the twin suns. The crowd around them scattered, and Marcus instinctively stepped closer to Zhara. He had no idea what was coming, but he had a feeling it wasn't just another friendly alien encounter. With a deep breath, Zhara glanced at Marcus, her eyes glinting, with something he couldn't quite understand. "It's time, Marcus. Get ready." Before Marcus could process the magnitude of what was happening, the shadow began to descend. The ground shook once more, and the air around them was filled with the sound of something approaching. The mystery of this strange world and the adventure ahead was just beginning, and he was right in the middle of it. The mysterious shadow drew closer. What was this new being? Was it a friend or something far darker? And what did Zhara mean by saying Marcus was about to meet someone who would change his life? Whatever it was, Marcus was about to find out. Whether he was ready or not, a creature like nothing Marcus had ever seen before landed in front of him. It was huge, towering over him, with 4 long, muscular arms and shimmering golden skin that seemed to glow in the light of the twin suns. Its eyes were glowing amber orbs, fixed intently on Marcus, making him feel small and out of place. The creature spoke in a strange, melodic language, its voice a mix of deep, resonant bass and high-pitched tones that echoed through the air. Zhara stepped forward, unfazed by the creature's imposing presence. She didn't seem intimidated at all. In fact, she smiled up at it warmly, as if this were just another routine encounter. "This is Malik, the leader of the Zinthar 5 Council," she said, her voice steady. "He's been cursed, as have many of the others. But he needs you." Marcus blinked, still trying to process what he was seeing. "Wait, needs me?" he asked, his voice filled with confusion. "I just got here. What am I supposed to do?" Zhara chuckled, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "What you do best. Fix things, break the curse, make friends, and maybe learn a thing or two along the way." Marcus stared at Malik, who tilted, his head slightly, watching him with curious, almost pitying eyes. Despite the vast physical difference between them, there was an odd sense of mutual curiosity. Malik's expression seemed to say that this human in front of him was both a mystery and an opportunity. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was under some sort of alien microscope. Before Marcus could say anything, Malik extended a massive hand toward him. Without thinking, Marcus reached out and shook it, his hand barely wrapped around one of the alien's enormous fingers. The crowd around them watched, and Marcus could feel the awkwardness of the moment. Malik looked down at his hand, clearly confused by the gesture. The crowd chuckled, and Marcus realized he'd just committed another cultural blunder. Zhara leaned in closer and whispered in his ear, "You just got the ceremonial handshake wrong, Earthling." Her voice was playful, and she was clearly enjoying the mix-up. "Well, sorry for not reading the Alien Customs Handbook," Marcus muttered, still a little embarrassed. "You could have warned me." Zhara's laughter was light and infectious. "Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. Maybe we'll practice properly later." Marcus couldn't help but smile at her playful tone, though he still felt a little out of his depth. But Zhara seemed to be taking the whole thing in stride, which gave him some comfort. As they continued walking through the city, the initial humor faded, and Zhara's tone shifted. She became more serious as they passed by strange alien buildings and bustling crowds. The city was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen, sleek, glowing, and alive with a vibrancy that felt almost magical. But his mind kept returning to what Zhara had said. "You should know," she began softly, her voice drawing him back to the moment. "The curse that silences us doesn't just stop with the leaders. It affects us all. We've lived in silence for so long." She paused, as if the weight of her words hung in the air between them. "It's not just a lack of voice. It's a lack of connection, a deep emptiness. Marcus listened, his curiosity growing. This wasn't just about some magical curse. It was about something deeper, something that affected the entire world. "So what's the plan?" he asked, trying to focus on what she was saying. Zhara looked at him, her golden eyes steady and full of meaning. "You, Marcus, you're the only one who can break the silence. Your presence here, it's not by chance." Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, the familiar humming sound filled the air again. This time it was stronger, more intense. The ground beneath their feet rumbled, as if something massive was approaching. Marcus's heart began to race. The sky above them darkened. The twin suns, which had been blazing in the sky, were now dimming as though something was blocking their light. The crowd around them grew tense, and Marcus could feel the unease spreading like wildfire. Something was happening, and it didn't feel like it was going to be good. Zhara's expression turned serious, her earlier playful demeanor completely gone. "It's not over, Marcus," she said softly, her voice low and urgent. "You've only just begun." Marcus stared up at the sky, his breath catching in his chest. The atmosphere was charged with an almost palpable energy. His heart raced as he watched the shifting darkness above them. "What's happening now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zhara grabbed his arm, her grip firm as she pulled him closer. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. "Brace yourself. Something, or someone, is about to make their move." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What had he just walked into? The sense of impending danger was overwhelming, and yet the thought of standing by Zhara with everything at stake made him feel strangely resolute. He wasn't sure what was coming next, but he knew that he couldn't turn back. This was only the beginning, and he was already in deeper than he had ever planned to go. The darkness above them seemed to pulse with energy, and Marcus took a deep breath, ready for whatever might come next. He had no idea what he was about to face, but one thing was certain: this world and the people in it were unlike anything he had ever imagined. The next chapter of this journey was about to unfold, and Marcus was ready to face it head-on. Zhara's words lingered in Marcus's mind as they walked through the city, his gaze following the glowing architecture and the strange creatures that roamed the streets. The skies had returned to their usual brilliance, but there was still an unease in the air, the feeling of something big approaching. Something neither of them could predict still hovered between them, and Marcus couldn't shake it. Every corner they turned, every strange sound in the distance, made him feel like they were on the edge of something monumental. Despite the tension, Marcus couldn't deny the growing connection he felt to Zhara. He had always been cautious, keeping people at arm's length back home. But Zhara was different. There was something about her strength, her confidence, and the way she seemed to see right through his awkwardness, that made him want to trust her completely. She wasn't just another alien to him anymore. She had become someone he genuinely cared about, someone whose presence felt comforting in a world so foreign to him. As they reached the edge of the city, with the vast wilderness of Zinthar 5 stretching before them, Zhara turned to face him, a soft smile gracing her lips. "I think you're starting to understand. There's more to this world than just breaking the curse. There's a connection, something deeper. Something I think we both need to find." Marcus smiled back, trying to push aside the fluttering sensation in his chest. "I think I'm starting to believe that," he said, his voice steady, though inside his thoughts were racing. He wasn't sure what he expected from this journey, but it certainly wasn't to feel this drawn to a stranger in an alien world. The thought of finding something beyond the curse was more than intriguing. It was something he didn't realize he needed. Just as Zhara was about to speak again, a small creature darted between them, its 3 tiny legs moving at an astonishing speed. Marcus yelped, jumping back in surprise, nearly tripping over his own feet. The creature was no bigger than a cat, but its speed and the strange way it moved caught him off guard. Zhara burst out laughing, the sound light and musical, and the tension in the air seemed to break in that moment. Marcus glanced at her, embarrassed, but relieved at the sound of her laughter. "That's a fluffler," Zhara explained, still chuckling. "Don't worry, they're harmless." Marcus frowned, eyeing the little creature that had just zipped past him. "Harmless? It looks like a tiny demon with legs," he said, still a little startled by how fast it moved. Zhara smiled warmly, a genuine sparkle in her eyes. "You'll get used to it," she replied, her tone comforting but teasing. Despite himself, Marcus found himself grinning at her. The creature was harmless, sure, but there was something about it, its speed, its odd shape, that made him think Zinthar 5 was never going to stop surprising him. As they continued their walk, the mood shifted. The sun had dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the streets, and the hum of the city seemed to soften, almost as if everything was holding its breath. Marcus looked up, his eyes scanning the sky, when a shadow passed over them. It wasn't another creature like the fluffler. This was something far bigger, something dark and looming, blocking the light from the twin suns. Marcus felt a chill crawl up his spine, a sudden visceral reaction that made him stop in his tracks. Zhara too seemed to feel it. Her usual calm demeanor flickered for a brief moment, and Marcus noticed the subtle shift in her expression, the hardening of her eyes, the way her posture stiffened. It was the first time he saw true concern in her gaze. "Marcus," she said, quietly, her voice lowering as if to match the growing tension in the air. "There's something else going on here, and it's bigger than just us, bigger than Zinthar 5. Marcus swallowed, his heart pounding. The weight of her words settled heavily on him. "What do you mean?" His voice came out barely above, a whisper, the uncertainty in his chest growing. Zhara turned to face him, her golden eyes intense, locking onto his with a steady, unwavering gaze. "I'll explain later, but for now, we need to go." Her voice was firm, commanding, and yet still filled with an undercurrent of urgency that made Marcus take a step closer. "I'm taking you somewhere safe." Safe. The word felt strange after everything he'd already encountered on this planet. He'd thought they'd been safe in the city, but now, with Zhara's warning, he wasn't so sure. He nodded, but uncertainty bubbled inside him. He hadn't even fully processed what was happening yet, but there was no turning back now. Without another word, Zhara grabbed his arm and started leading him down a narrow side street, away from the bustling market and toward an area of the city that seemed quieter, more isolated. The air grew cooler as they moved further from the heart of the city, and Marcus could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. Something was coming, something that neither of them could fully predict, but it was clear that whatever it was, it had to be serious. As they turned a corner, Marcus felt a deep sense of unease settle in his chest. He didn't know what to expect next, but he knew one thing. Zhara had been right. He was in way over his head, and there was no way out. The world around them seemed to close in as the shadows lengthened, and for the first time since arriving on Zinthar 5, Marcus felt the full weight of what was at stake. Whatever happened next, it was going to change everything. The air around them grew heavy with anticipation, and Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was coming, it was going to be bigger than anything he had faced before. He glanced at Zhara, but her face remained unreadable. They were moving deeper into the unknown, and for all he knew, they were walking straight into danger. What was coming? And would they be able to survive what lay ahead? As Zhara and Marcus made their way toward the designated safe location, the feeling of unease grew stronger within Marcus. Zhara, who had once been playful and light-hearted, was now quieter, her usual energy replaced by a sense of purpose that made her seem distant. The city, once alive with its strange hums and noises, now felt eerily silent. The streets around them seemed empty, with no signs of life except the occasional flicker of alien figures moving in the distance. Every sound seemed amplified, and Marcus could sense the weight of something heavy in the air. They passed through narrow, twisting corridors until they reached an old, weathered building on the city's edge. The structure was covered in thick vines, with broken windows and faded walls, looking as if it had been abandoned for ages. Marcus's stomach tightened as they entered, the quietness in the air making his heart race. "What's going on, Zhara?" Marcus asked, his voice reflecting his concern. He couldn't help but feel that the strange events were leading up to something. But what? He couldn't put it together. "You've been acting differently." Zhara stopped walking and turned. To face him, her golden eyes briefly softening as she looked him over. "There's something you need to know," she said quietly, her voice low with intensity. "We've been silent for centuries. The curse wasn't just a punishment for us, it was a warning, a signal to the rest of the galaxy." Marcus's confusion only deepened. A warning? A warning about what? She shook her head, her golden eyes growing distant for a moment. "There's an ancient prophecy. It speaks of a voice that will break the curse, and that voice will come from outside, Zinthar 5, from human blood. That's why you're here, Marcus. You were brought here for a reason. But the prophecy, it's not just about breaking the curse. It's about uniting our people. If it fails, we fall into chaos. Complete chaos." The weight of her words hit Marcus hard, and the sense of responsibility that had been growing in him suddenly seemed far more real. The burden of breaking the curse was no longer just about saving a planet. It was about saving a people from falling into an endless darkness. But what would happen if he couldn't do it? What would become of Zinthar 5? What would become of him? "So what happens if this prophecy doesn't work? What happens to you?" Marcus asked, the question hanging heavy between them. Zhara turned away, her gaze moving to the walls of the room, as if contemplating something deeper. "We're stuck," she murmured. "Stuck in this silent void. We're nothing without a voice. It's more than just words, Marcus. It's everything we are. Without a voice, we can't communicate, can't build, can't even truly live." The room around them hummed quietly, and the low noise of shuffling footsteps grew louder. Marcus turned to find several Zintharians standing in the doorway, their faces grim and uncertain. The weight of their gaze bore down on him, each one studying him with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "Do they all know?" Marcus asked, his voice low with apprehension. Zhara nodded, taking a step forward as the group of aliens entered the room. Their silence was palpable, and the air around them grew tense. Among the group, one alien, tall, with dark skin and intricate tattoos across his face, stepped forward. His presence was commanding, his eyes filled with skepticism as he locked eyes with Marcus. "You're the one," the tall alien said, his voice deep and commanding. "The one who will change everything, Marcus of Earth?" Marcus's stomach twisted into knots. He wasn't sure how to respond. He had come here to help, but could he truly change anything? Was he ready to carry the weight of their hopes? "I don't know how much change I can bring," Marcus said, his voice wavering slightly, "but I'm here to help." The alien leader's gaze hardened, his eyes narrowing. "We cannot afford to fail. The fate of our people rests on your shoulders. If you fail, we are lost." Zhara stepped forward, her face set in determination. "I trust him," she said firmly, her voice strong and unwavering. "I believe in Marcus." The others looked at each other, exchanging silent glances. They weren't convinced, but Zhara's words seemed to sway them, and with a deep, reluctant sigh, the group began to discuss the next steps in breaking the curse. But despite the serious conversation, Marcus couldn't shake the growing sense of pressure mounting on his shoulders. As they continued to plan, Marcus could feel Zhara's presence beside him, like an unspoken promise that whatever happened, they would face it together. She was so close, her energy almost tangible as it radiated around him. He was becoming acutely aware of how much she had come to mean to him in such a short time. He wasn't sure when it had happened, but somewhere, between the chaos and confusion, Zhara had become more than just a guide. She had become someone he cared for deeply. A soft voice broke through his thoughts. "Marcus," Zhara whispered, leaning in closer, her golden eyes soft and full of concern. "I know this is overwhelming, but you're the only one who can do this." Her words weren't just reassurance, they were filled with belief and something more. Marcus turned to meet her gaze, the weight of her sincerity hitting him all at once. "I don't know if I'm ready," he confessed, his voice heavy with doubt. "I'm not sure I can do this." Zhara's gaze didn't waver. She reached out and placed a hand lightly on his arm, her touch grounding him. "I'll be with you. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together." Her words were more than just comfort. They were a promise that he wasn't alone in this. It was in that moment, with her hand on his arm, that Marcus realized just how deep their connection had grown. He wasn't just here to help. Zinthar 5. He was here for her, and that truth hit him harder than he had expected. Before he could respond, the room fell silent. The door to the room suddenly slammed open, the sound echoing like a thunderclap. A tall figure stepped into the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light. Marcus's heart skipped a beat as he took in the figure's shadowed form. This wasn't just another Zintharian. "This is the other voice," the figure said, its voice chilling and cold. "The one who will stop your prophecy." Zhara's eyes went wide, her body stiffening in alarm. "No, it can't be." Marcus's pulse raced as the figure stepped forward, its face cloaked in shadows. "I will not let it happen. Not now. Not ever." The air in the room turned cold, and Marcus knew they had crossed a line. Whatever was coming, whatever this mysterious figure was, it wasn't just an obstacle. It was a threat, one that would test everything Marcus and Zhara had worked for. The stakes had just been raised, and the real battle was only beginning. The figure in the doorway was none other than Malik, the leader of the Zinthar 5 Council, the very same figure who had greeted Marcus upon his arrival. But this time, Malik's presence was different. His once welcoming demeanor was gone, replaced by cold, steely eyes that gleamed with malice. A chill ran down Marcus's spine as he met Malik's gaze, feeling the weight of the tension building in the room. "You've been deceived," Malik's voice boomed as he stepped fully into the room, his figure towering and menacing. "The prophecy is a lie. There is no cure. There is no voice to save us." Marcus stood frozen for a moment, trying to process what was happening. Everything had shifted so suddenly, and his mind raced to keep up. Zhara, who had been calm and composed up until now, stepped forward, her body tense with anger and disbelief. "Malik, what are you talking about?" she demanded, her voice sharp with frustration. Malik's expression hardened, his gaze never leaving Zhara. "It was never meant for the curse to be broken," he said coldly. "You, Zhara, were meant to rule in silence. You were meant to remain obedient. We were meant to live in this silence forever." Zhara's face paled slightly, but her eyes burned with defiance. "That's not true. We fought for centuries to break the silence. I won't stop now." Malik sneered at Marcus, a look of contempt flashing across his features. "And you," he spat, "you're just a pawn in a game far older than you realize. You think you're here to help, but you have no idea what you're really dealing with." Marcus felt a surge of fear and anger mix in his chest. His mind was reeling, but he refused to back down. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice low but steady, trying to keep control of the situation. Malik's lips curled into a twisted smile. "I want to preserve what is left of Zinthar 5, he growled. "And to do that, You must leave, now." As the words hit him, they struck Marcus like a physical blow. This wasn't just about breaking a curse. It wasn't just about helping Zinthar 5. It was about power, manipulation, and control. And Zhara, standing by his side, was caught in the middle of it all. His protective instincts kicked in. He wouldn't leave her behind. Not now. Not after everything they had been through. "I won't leave," Marcus said firmly, stepping forward and planting himself between Zhara and Malik. "Not without her." Zhara looked at him, her expression torn between worry and admiration. She gave a slow nod, her golden eyes unwavering. "I'm with you, Marcus. We do this together." Malik laughed darkly, the sound echoing through the room. "You're making a grave mistake, Earthling," he sneered. "We will be the ones to decide how this ends." The tension in the room was unbearable. The Zintharian supporters around Malik closed in, their faces grim, their bodies tense. Marcus felt a chill in the air as he realized just how high the stakes were. This wasn't just a matter of prophecy, it was a battle for the future of the entire planet, and they were right in the middle of it. Marcus and Zhara stood side by side, ready to face whatever came next. But just as they braced themselves for the next move, Malik raised his hand in a subtle motion, signaling something. Suddenly the air around them seemed to hum, and a hidden chamber in the back of the room opened with a loud mechanical whir. A bright, blinding light shot out from the chamber, illuminating the room in a flash. Instinctively, Marcus and Zhara ducked as the light exploded into a burst of chaotic energy. The ground beneath their feet shook violently, and the walls of the room trembled. The noise was deafening, and Marcus's heart raced as he tried to process the sudden surge of events. Everything went into chaos. The blinding light flickered, casting strange, shifting shadows across the room. Alien voices shouted, their tones mixed with fear and excitement. Marcus could barely hear himself think as the tension between the two factions reached a boiling point. Zhara grabbed Marcus's arm, pulling him close as the room around them descended into madness. Her grip was firm, and despite the chaos, there was a sense of calm in her eyes. She didn't flinch. She was ready for whatever came next. "Ready," Zhara whispered urgently, her voice barely audible above the noise. Marcus nodded, his pulse racing. "More than ever," he whispered back, his voice steady but filled with determination. And just as the lights flickered off, a powerful roar echoed from the shadows, deep, guttural, and primal. The sound of it made Marcus's chest tighten with fear. What was that? Was it a new threat, something worse than Malik and his supporters? Whatever it was, Marcus knew the battle for Zinthar 5 had just escalated to a new level. With one last, intense look at Zhara, Marcus stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. They were in this together now. There was no turning back. The battle between Zinthar 5's council and those who had opposed Marcus and Zhara raged on, the stakes higher than ever. But through it all, Marcus and Zhara stood side by side, unyielding. In their determination to see the truth revealed, each step they took brought them closer to victory. The alien council members who had once been so certain that their silence was eternal now watched in awe as Zhara, with her strength and resolve, led them toward a new path. Malik's reign crumbled under the weight of the truth. The curse that had bound Zinthar 5 for centuries wasn't just a punishment. It was a test, and together Marcus and Zhara had passed it. The silence had been a barrier, a challenge meant to strengthen the people, to test their resilience, and now with Malik overthrown, the curse was broken. Zinthar 5 was free. With Malik's defeat, the tension that had gripped the planet began to lift. The Zintharians, once muted and isolated in their silence, now found their voices. Zhara stood before the crowd, her golden eyes shining with an emotion Marcus couldn't quite name. As she took a deep breath and spoke, her voice rang out, strong, And clear for the first time in centuries. The words she spoke weren't just for the people of Zinthar 5, they were for Marcus too, for everything they had been through together, for the journey they had shared. And as her voice echoed across the land, it felt as though the planet itself was breathing again, waking from a long, unspoken slumber. Zinthar 5 celebrated its newfound voice that night, the atmosphere alive with energy, hope, and excitement. The twin moons rose high in the sky, casting their pale glow across the landscape. The people of Zinthar 5 gathered in the great open space beneath the stars, a sea of beings from all walks of life coming together to witness the historic moment, the unity of Earth and Zinthar 5. Marcus and Zhara stood side by side, their hands intertwined as the crowd cheered. They had done it, together. The bond they had formed was stronger than ever, and in that moment Marcus realized that this alien world, with all its wonders and dangers, had become a part of him. And Zhara, she was no longer just a guide or a stranger to him. She was someone he truly cared for. Their connection went deeper than the curse, deeper than the prophecy. It was something real, something that neither of them had expected. The night was filled with music, laughter, and celebration. But in the quiet moments, as the noise of the crowd faded away, Marcus felt an overwhelming sense of peace. He had come to Zinthar 5 for one reason, but he had found so much more. Later that evening, Marcus and Zhara walked through the quiet gardens of Zinthar 5, the stars above them glimmering like never before. The air was cool, the soft rustle of alien trees whispering in the breeze. It felt like the calm after a storm, a brief moment of peace before whatever came next. "I didn't expect any of this," Marcus said softly, his voice filled with wonder as he gazed up at the stars. "But now, I can't imagine leaving." Zhara smiled, her golden eyes reflecting the glow of the moon above. Her gaze lingered on him, warm and steady. "You're not leaving, Marcus," she said, her voice carrying a quiet confidence. "Not unless you want to." The words hung between them, full of promise. Marcus could feel his heart beating faster as he looked at her. The connection they had was undeniable. He didn't want to leave. He didn't want to go back to the life he had known. Not when this was where he felt he truly belonged. As they walked into the horizon, ready for the next chapter of their adventure, the stars above them held the promise of unknown challenges and rewards. The future was uncertain, filled with possibilities they couldn't yet imagine, but whatever it was, Marcus knew he wouldn't face it alone. Zhara leaned toward him, her voice a soft whisper in the night air. "We've just begun, Earthling." Marcus grinned, his heart swelling with the certainty of what lay ahead. "Then let's make it count." And with that, they continued forward, hand in hand, stepping into the unknown. Whatever awaited them, they would face it together. And that, for Marcus, was all that mattered.